and welcome to today's episode of Into the Composer's Mind. Today this morning I'm recording in my studio here and it's a beautiful day outside. It's a little bit cool, but nice and sunny and crisp. A little bit of mist coming up from the water, from the ocean around me in beautiful Nova Scotia. Once again, I need to thank the Canada Council for its support of this project. And why am I telling you about when and where I'm recording this? Well, quite often creative mind needs to have a particular space to help it help some of the ideas emerge. So I'm just really blessed to have this particular environment around me, which allows me to do quite a bit of creative thinking. So why am I talking about creative thinking? Well, this project is dealing with Into the Composer's Mind, which is kind of looking at a specific project, but also is discussing or considering what the creative processes are that are going on. It's kind of like one of those concept to realization types of videos, and you'll quickly find out that the creative processes, of course, don't apply just to music composition. The same creative thinking that goes on in a composition is, of course, the same kind of thinking that's taking place in any sort of creative problem-solving environment, in a young child, in a engineer, in writers, in music improvisations, and pretty much all creative domains are using, or all domains are using different kinds of creative thinking. Of course, we are working on a specific project. Sorry for that word. A specific project, which is dealing with our family memories into some sort of a chamber piece that can be performed virtually. And this does, of course, give some particular constraints. So in the background, you're going to hear, or you are hearing already, some of the composition, some of the background ideas that I had for some of the synthesized track that will go along in the background of this composition. As I mentioned earlier, in earlier videos, the Gregorian chant revealed three tonal centers, D, F, and G. So that those three tonal centers were going to create a basic form or framework for the composition, moving from a more introspective to a more celebratory section at the end. So I created three short synthesized tracks using my synthesizer here and adapting some presets to some sounds that I like. To give a little bit of ambience in the background. You'll hear three separate tracks, one centered around D, one centered around F, and one centered around G, each using a little different tonal center. So that's kind of the musical process that was going on yesterday and today to push the composition forward. And the interesting thing is that most of the creative thinking that takes place is really a kind of divergent thinking as opposed to a convergent thinking. A convergent thinker is someone who's given a bunch of data and a bunch of information, and they solve a problem in a more conventional way. A lot of creative thinking is so-called divergent thinking, which some people call the thinking outside of the box. And the metacognitive processes that are involved in that kind of thinking are a little bit different than the kind of thinking that takes place in a regular convergent thinker. And I'm kind of moving from the planning stage now into into testing out a few things. It's kind of like the inventor or the engineer having to solve a particular problem that they're envisioning, and just coming up with a bunch of ideas and saying, okay, maybe we have to do a little prototype here. We have to somehow look at how we can solve this particular problem. So that's what's happening, of course, in the music composition as well. You're kind of evaluating the alternatives based on the craft that you've already established in your training, and using that craft to help you to come up with a couple of ideas. Now, once you listen to those ideas, one or two of them, you have to do an evaluation. Did it sound the way I wanted it to, or is it just going to go into the garbage bin? Do I just cut my losses and head on to the next idea? And that's, of course, what divergent thinkers do all the time, where they're really checking the results of just trying a bunch of things out and seeing what it is that might help them to solve the problem. So that's kind of what's been going on as I move from the planning stage into a little bit of the realization stage, where I am trying out a few ideas, based upon what I've heard, what I've planned, what I've heard in my head, what resources I have, and I've already talked about the musical resources that are available in our family. Just taking all that information and putting it together into a quick little background sketch and seeing where that takes us next. So as usual, the composer should be going through an awful lot of evaluation of what the result is, and as one of my great composition teachers told me, 95% of that is going into the garbage bin, so don't be afraid to let it go. So we're going to just check out what was recorded, what you've been hearing in the background, and see how that fits into the next stage. The next stage of this project is, of course, I still need to continue to work on the text, which I'll be doing, as well as trying to come up with a more general framework form for the entire piece that reflects the mood that we want to establish. So thank you for listening and for watching this video. I encourage you to subscribe to this particular YouTube channel, Into the Composer's Mind, where I will be continuing with this project, but also will be in the future going into more depth on some of the creative processes that are involved, and looking forward to doing that work with some interviews with other composers and looking at how this creative process evolves. So once again, thank you for listening, and we will be with you again soon.